You've felt it, haven't you?
I felt the energy in the room shift a little bit.
That chill.
We were woken up by this howling.
That shadow.
And you would see this shadow just kind of creep out from around the corner of the dining room.
You're being watched.
6.5 foot tall and skinny, came from behind me.
Others have seen it, felt it, experienced it.
And suddenly, there are these loud bang, bang, bang.
And now they're ready to tell you everything.
I saw an entity
playing on a Ouija board and summoning a demon.
Join us in darkness as we share first-hand encounters from beyond the veil, told by the very people who lived them.
I felt a giant lick right across the right side of my face.
Yeah, that was strange.
This is Geist. All new episodes, now channeling from Spectre Vision Radio.
This episode is brought to you by Alexa Plus. Say hello to Alexa Plus and see how Alexa can do more for you. Need tickets to that last-minute show? Craving your favorite restaurant? Sit back, relax, and talk naturally. Alexa's on it. Alexa learns your preferences to create a personalized experience. And now, Alexa Plus is free with Prime on your Amazon devices, like Echo and Fire TV. Learn more at amazon.com/Alexa Plus.
Instagram teen accounts have automatic protections for what teens see and who can contact them, plus time management tools. And Instagram will continue adding built-in safety features to help create age-appropriate experiences. Learn more about teen accounts and Instagram's ongoing work to protect teens online at instagram.com/teen accounts.
Spectre Vision Radio.
Telemetry in launch condition.
Well, some other observers.
Hey, it's late night.
It's late night on the astral plane, where it's never too late. With your host, Ryan Singer.
It's more fun to believe.
Welcome to another voyage of Late Night on the Astral Plane. This is your buddy Ryan Singer. Thank you for joining me for this voyage, this episode, this show. I mean, what is not happening in the world of the paranormal right now? Let's just boost the volume just a little bit so it's easier to hear me. What is not happening? There's lots of things to cover that probably you've heard about, and some things that you may not have heard about. Potentially. I don't know. I can't even keep up with everything that's going on. There seems to be an onslaught of breaking paranormal news lately, which to me is a good thing. I mean, you got Mayim Bialik, interviewing like Daryl Anka about, aliens. You've got, celebrities who have huge notoriety jumping into the paranormal space, launching their own shows, becoming ufologists, becoming paranormal enthusiasts and things like that. But here's the deal with that. Of course, they're going to become paranormal enthusiasts or ufologists or all of the above, or extremely excited in cryptozoology. How could you not, when the world is showing itself to have so much of this stuff occurring and happening and, being disclosed, even though painfully slow. And we have Major General McCasland going to, disappearing in February. And now there's 4 or 5 scientists that are connected to General McCasland that are missing. 3 of them are to be, I think they're known to be dead. It's kind of strange to say the least, and a little bit scary, I suppose, if you're one of these people who might be on the cutting edge of new technologies and or have top secret information, which, spoiler alert, I do not have any of that information. Now, do I have some information? Yes, but it's the same information that you have access to if we just have the time to look it up and explore and deep dive these rabbit holes on the internet or through books like The Idea of the World by Bernardo Kastrup. Let me move my hands there. This is a book about idealism. And I got to tell you, I'm reading it currently, as you can see, but it is a slog for such a simpleton like myself to understand the language. I'm going to try something here. I'm going to be sharing my screen as well because I want to be showing you and or reading from an article. These things tie together, I promise. At least in my crazy brain, they do. There's yarn pinned to different parts of my mind map, and they're all very, very connected. These are not new concepts. These are things that I've been talking about for a long time with guests and just rambling on solo style for years about the foundation of the universe being consciousness. So what does that mean when it comes to paranormal communication? I've been doing deep dives, trying to learn more and more, or let me clarify that in a better way. I've been trying to reinforce previous knowledge that I've heard, just so I have a deeper understanding and better recall. And I just hit the mic, sorry, in regards to the history of instrumental transcommunication, ITC research, direct voice phenomena, electrical voice phenomena, this communication with the other side, with some kind of intelligence, whether it is, human intelligence that is no longer in physical form as we know it, whether it's interdimensional intelligence, whether it is just atmospheric intelligence. I don't know if I've ever said that phrase before. I'm sure someone has before. Or is it extraterrestrial intelligence, interdimensional, ultra-terrestrial, spirit, or just consciousness from future versions of ourselves, potentially reaching out and talking to us, or past versions of ourselves, reaching forward to talk to us, even though it would be their present, even though they are still in the future from this point when they will be doing it. What is time? What is time? I'm getting juiced up. I got some mango passion juice over here. I'm literally getting juiced up over here. The weather has been beautiful in Los Angeles. At least it's the small victories that we have to take in this current world. And the weather has been beautiful, and the lizard has loved it out here. Okay, first things first. I'm not going to deep dive on this until later because I haven't seen the documentary. But many of you have probably heard about the controversy, the swirling tornado hurricane of controversy surrounding a new documentary that's going to be coming out soon that maybe not, debunks the Patterson-Gimlin film, the most famous Bigfoot footage that the world has ever seen. I don't think there's any arguing that. Now, I have a first-hand connection, 1 degree of separation from someone who has seen the film at a film festival. I have not seen the film. I have other friends who have not seen the film. Everybody is starting to form their opinions one way or the other about this film. Before we discuss this at all, let me just say, regardless of the outcome of the validity of the Patterson-Gimlin film in 1967, if I'm not mistaken, it does not prove or disprove that Bigfoot itself is real, right? I'm sorry, I've got pop-up windows from Zoom. What are you doing? I'm in the middle of a meeting here. So it doesn't prove or disprove the existence of the cryptid or of the creature, of the anomaly, the interdimensional being, whatever it possibly could be, of Bigfoot itself. It's one way or the other. It could be a hoax. Doesn't mean Bigfoot's a hoax, right? So they were fascinated in Bigfoot. Why? Because they'd heard of Bigfoot already. So, and we can go through and we know the accounts of the wild man, of, the skunk ape, of Sasquatch, of Oma, of so many different names. Expedition Bigfoot, the museum in, where is it in Georgia? Somewhere in Georgia. I can't remember the exact name of the town that the museum is located, but it has this great placard where it has all these different names of indigenous people, what they have considered or called a very similar or the same creature. And it's really cool. There's probably at least 60 of them on there. So a creature by many, many different names for sure. So I have a friend who sent me a text message that basically said, in summation, in summary, just saw the new Bigfoot documentary. It was devastating. Basically proves that the Patterson-Gimlin film was a hoax. This is a person who has seen it, okay? And this is a person who's a believer, an experiencer, and someone who, dare I say, wants to believe in these things and does believe in these things. They said, and I quote, it was devastating. Now, got another friend, Bigfoot believer, been into Bigfoot for a long, long time, hardcore Bigfoot. Recently told me in the last couple days, hey, I've done a deep dive on this, and I got to tell you, haven't seen the film, still haven't seen the film because none of us have, unless we're privy to it at a screening at a film festival before it's released to the general public. Not sure, on the fence. So you can listen to that actually. Good friends of mine, Dave Stone and Kyle Kinane, have relaunched The Boogie Monster. That podcast is back. Does that not give you a little bit of hope in the world? So you can check that out. They'll have an episode coming out soon where Dave has done a deep, deep dive into the controversy surrounding the new Bigfoot documentary. So you'll definitely want to check that out when the Boogie Monster drops that. If I don't think they did already, I have to double check, but I don't think they have. So keep your ears and eyes peeled for when the new episode of the Boogie Monster drops, where they talk about the Bigfoot documentary and the controversy surrounding it. I mean, because it's a huge controversy surrounding this. Because here's the potentially devastating part of the documentary, in my humble opinion. It's not that it was a suit, maybe, or fake, that it was a hoax. The truly devastating aspect on this potentially being a hoax would be Bob Gimlin, who's still with us, is the patriarchal figure of the Bigfoot world, beloved by everyone and anyone who's ever seen him talk, had an interaction with them, gone Bigfooting, squatching with him, seen him at a conference just in passing. I have never heard one person speak ill or an ill thing of Bob Gimlin. By all accounts, is the most, it's like Santa Claus. He's like Santa Claus of the Bigfoot world. And considering just even mental mind games that this is a hoax of a film, that's the devastating part, is the feelings. I've never met Bob Gimlin. I don't know Bob Gimlin, right? Admiration from afar type situation. But I know I have close friends who are friends with him. And to me, it's devastating, the heartbreak that would be associated with someone hoaxing, being a hoaxer, and just kind of doing that and just like sitting on that and keeping that for 6 decades. Or is it longer? 7 decades? There's no way, right? There's no way that film is now almost 70 years old. It's hard to wrap my brain around. And it would be even more difficult to wrap my brain around the idea that such a beloved figure, the Santa Claus of Bigfoot, would be sitting on such a secret. The thing that made him such a figure, obviously, he became famous because of the film that partially bears his name, Robert Patterson and Bob Gimlin. Wow. So it is, needless to say, I don't jump in on message boards. I'm never on Facebook looking around. I'm not even on TikTok anymore. But I will say this: the community I know is swirling. It's a swirl. It's a swirl fest, and people are taking sides. And according to a buddy of mine who's deep in, it's kind of getting ugly already. So, which is deeply unfortunate. But which means got to see this documentary, right? And then we can maybe form our own opinions regarding the validity or whether we believe it's a convincing argument or not. It is funny to hear people take sides before they've even seen what's going on, though, because clearly there's emotional investment over long periods of time with certain people, and I don't blame anybody for wanting to defend Bob Gimlin especially if they know him, and and he's a friend of theirs, et cetera, et cetera. So it's wild times, right? So let us move past human drama when it comes to the extra human or the non-human world that we are studying or we are so fascinated in. And it occurs to me that maybe this idea of separation from us and cryptids and ghosts and ETs, maybe that is partially part of the problem and what can lead to some of the roadblocks regarding our deeper understanding of the phenomena itself. Maybe we're putting up these clear boundaries of separateness that are just, quite frankly, illusionary. And yeah, I wouldn't be shocked at all if after we go to the great after form, we realize that all this idea of separateness from, I am different than a dog. I am different than a tree. I am different than a watermelon. I am different than a mosquito. When all this separateness just instantaneously melts away in the great after form and we realize, we're all part of the same living stew. Right? Oh my gosh, how could I have been so dumb? I'm no different than this concrete wall. Is that too far? Is that too far to say that I, in this wall that I look at here, are our brothers, our siblings, our companions, our siblings in the cosmic family of existence? Is it too much to think that this microphone and I could have a family together? Yes. Yes, it is 99.99999 to infinity certain that me and this microphone could not have a family together. Now, that's not to say that there haven't been people who wanted to marry their cars, because there was a show, I think, where people were like making love to their cars and inanimate objects and couches and things. I think we have a vice president who does that. It's not beyond the realm of possibility. Maybe these people have seen something in their car that the rest of us just don't see. Although we all know people who love their car way too much, right? It's like, anyway, I'm going to cut myself off there because there's a lot I could keep going, with that, and I'm not going to do it. And I think Nigel would be proud of me for doing that. I do want to read you something before we take our first little break here, because there's a lot of other stuff happening in the world of the paranormal. And there's things I want to read to you and we can talk about and just kind of, I don't know, explore together and see what we think about it. The Idea of the World by Bernardo Kastrup, who's an idealist. Let me just read you an excerpt from something I read recently. And I got to tell you, this book is a slog because the words in here, I'm looking up a word in my dictionary app. About every 4 words, I'm looking up what a word means. You know what I'm saying? So let's just let's see. And indeed, what the notion of objective matter attempts to make sense of are certain patterns and regularities observable in the imagery, such as, this is just kind of like, let's just jump in saying, this is Bernardo explaining the levels of explanatory abstraction which can be used, which are, I don't want to say a fallacy because I don't think that's the correct word, but when people try to shoo away idealism as a reasonable explanation for, the foundational reality that we all experience, they are using explanatory abstraction in modern day science or physicalism or materialism that quite frankly doesn't make sense, and people aren't calling BS on it enough in the world of the scientific community. And then just leaps and bounds are being made after, on top of these things that should have been halted or stopped initially from a claim that is an explanatory abstraction, right? So it's an interesting, oh God, I keep doing that. It's an interesting and complicated thing that I'm not, completely familiar with because I'm not a scientist. Let me jump ahead. But all of this stuff is such good stuff. If you can trying to wrap your brain around what it means to be the functioning mind. Okay, so if the world is not made of matter outside our individual minds, how can we all share the same world beyond ourselves? If the world is not independent of mind, why can we not change the laws of nature simply by imagining them to be different? Clearly, thus, the non-mental world posited by physicalism is largely an attempt to make sense of these three basic observations. And the observations such as the correlations between observed brain activity and reported inner life. Okay, so the correlations between observed brain activity and reported inner life. Number two, the fact that we all seem to inhabit the same world. And number three, the fact that the dynamics of this world unfold independently of our own personal volition, meaning I don't have to be there, or I don't have to insist on something, or I don't have to visualize something happening where I am not for it to unfold in the way potentially it unfolds. That's what that third one means. The second one I think is pretty obvious, that we're all here together, right? We all seem to be on the same page about that aspect to a high degree anyway. And the correlations in the first one, the correlations between observed brain activity and reported inner life. Meaning we can measure, and scientists have done all these things trying to measure brainwave activity, et cetera, and they seem to have patterns when certain inner life things are happening in the mind, right? Certain exercises, certain activities, certain things are happening in the mind, in the brain. Those are observable through testing, observed brain activity. We can, as it's called, right? So that makes sense. So what Bernardo is now diving into is basically saying, well, these are the three things, right? So if the world is not independent of mind, why can we not change the laws of nature simply by imagining them to be different? So positing the arguments against idealism, right? If the world is just a thought, if the world is just a mind, right? Why can we not change the laws of nature simply by imagining them to be different? Clearly, thus, the non-mental world posited by physicalism is largely an attempt to make sense of these three basic observations. As such, it is an explanatory abstraction, not itself an observation. We conceptually imagine that there is a non-mental world underlying our perceptions, and in some sense isomorphic to these perceptions, because in doing so helps explain the basic observations, right? So basically, at the heart of this matter, from what I am able to remember and comprehend from this very dense slog of a read, right? That is also highly enjoyable because it's got me back into having doing like brain exercise puzzles and things like that. Because oh boy, I got to sharpen up this tool here, right? It's the fact that we are able to observe and be aware of the fact that we are observing. It tells us something. There's an assumption here that we have this inner world. There is the assumption that we have the inner world because we're all experiencing this idea of the thought realm, is what I'll call it, right? And so the fact that we are able to observe these things individually, there is in no way a guarantee that we can be certain of the fact that it is exactly the same as others. I think it's called the hard problem of consciousness, or I could be wrong about that. There is, in fact, no way for us to observe something independent from ourselves to be existing if we are not there to be observing it. Does that make sense? Like, you can't. I guess it's kind of similar to if a tree falls in the woods and there's nobody to hear it, doesn't make a sound. If we can't be there to observe something, how can we observe it? To know for a fact, scientifically for a fact, that it exists. So, because someone else could have told us they were there and it's still there. Yes. But they're an individual as well who have the same problem once they are removed from the thing. Understand? It's all very, very wild, right? Nonetheless, whatever ontological class is pointed to by this conceptual abstraction remains perforce epistemically. This is my problem here. I've read this word out loud 7,000 times. Epistemically. Epistemically. This is one of those fucking words that's like, why do we have to use it? He uses every seventh word is this word. Yeah. Oh my God. It's inaccessible, a recognition already present in Kant's critique of pure reason. Explanatory abstraction does not stop at this first level. And then he goes on and on and on, right? And then, I had to edit out a rant. I was going a little bonkers over here because this camera was going bonkers. Epistemically, of or relating to the to knowledge or the foundation of acquiring it, basically is what that word means. So I'm just kind of reading it as what's known, what we can know, and what is able to be known, right? So it is kind of bonkers though. I forget what I was even going to get into because I just got too riled up over here. But what's interesting about all this is it is a journey to like understand what we can know. Epistemic. So it's an epistemic journey. It's an epistemic journey. So we want to know more. And the more we know, the more questions we have. And that's the beautiful thing about the world of the paranormal. So let's take a break. I need a drink of my mango juice to get juiced, to get jacked. And then we're going to come back. And I want to read to you. I'm going to try to set it up so I can share my screen properly. So when we come back, I'm going to get into an article that to me is pretty groundbreaking and also ties into this idea that consciousness is in fact the foundation. And what if, as my good friend Matthew Jackson has illuminated me to over time, is this idea that electromagnetic frequency and the EMF field is in fact the nuts and bolts of consciousness communication, right? Like, and what does science have to say about that? And is it even plausible? We're going to be right back. And don't forget, patreon.com/Ryan Singer, $3 a month. It's less than a Starbucks coffee. Gets you commercial free all the time. We're going to be right back.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Okay, let me share the screen here for you, and we'll get into this. So here we go. So I'm on a rabbit hole, right? So I'm on this rabbit hole of trying to figure out, what in fact is it that might make the idea of consciousness as a foundational, a foundational aspect of interpersonal communication without the traditional sensory channels, as I think that's a kind of a scientific way to say it. I can download this PDF. I'm gonna have to do that. Brain-to-brain communication, the possible role of brain electromagnetic fields as a potential hypothesis. Now, this is from the National Library of Medicine, National Center for Biotechnology Information. You can see, I'll link this article by Ihsan Hosseini. So here's the abstract of this article. As you can see here, up now, the communication between brains of different humans or animals has been confirmed and confined by the sensory, medium, and motor facilities of the body. Traditional kind of talking, right? Communication, whether it's nonverbal communication through like expressions on our face or the spoken language or the written language, et cetera, et cetera. Recently, direct brain-to-brain communication, DBBC, outside the conventional five senses, has been verified between animals and humans. Let me highlight this for you. Recently, right? Direct brain-to-brain communication, DBBC, DBBC, outside the conventional five senses, has been verified between animals and humans. That is an exciting discovery, and they're putting it out there. Nevertheless, no empirical studies or serious discussion have been performed to elucidate the mechanism behind this process. Okay, so we know it's happening. We don't know how. It hasn't been elucidated. It hasn't been clearly and empirically studied, or it hasn't been proven exactly how it happens. The validation of direct brain-to-brain communication has been documented via recording similar pattern of action potentials occurring in the brain cortex of two animals. With regard to action potentials in brain neurons, the magnetic field resulting from the action potentials created in neurons is one of the tools where the brain of one animal can affect the brain of another. It has been shown that different animals, even humans, have the power to understand the magnetic field. Okay? Now, let me bring up, if I may, let me find it real quick. Sorry, I should have had this already up. Where's my paranormal publishers? Let me pause this for a second. Let me pause this for a second while I find this. Okay, so you might be asking yourself, well, that's all fine and dandy, Ryan, but what the hell is an action potential? Okay, let's see here. Boom, let's bring that up. So an action potential, according to dictionary, is the change in electrical potential associated with the passage of an impulse along the membrane of a muscle cell or nerve cell. According to simplepsychology.org, action potentials are fundamental electrical impulses crucial for all nerve functions and the nervous system's ability to process and transmit information. An action potential on Wikipedia is a series of quick changes in voltage across a cell membrane. An action potential occurs when the membrane potential of a specific cell rapidly rises and falls. This depolarization, physically a reversal of the polarization of the membrane, then causes adjacent locations to simply depolarize. Action potentials occur in several types of excitable cells. Okay? Now, which is interesting because there's also a connection with potassium channels, right? So let me find it. Okay, so do you see this diagram here? This is basically what happens when one becomes depolarized, right? Or it's being depolarized. It's polarized and then being depolarized. So basically, this one on what you're seeing on your left is sending out the signal. This is what it looks like before. And now the one near it is opening up and becoming depolarized because the one close to it is. Basically, I'm not a scientist, okay? And I'm probably never going to be a scientist. But let me tell you this is exciting. I basically understand what it means when something's close to something else and it can kind of communicate with it through some kind of invisible force outside of the five basic senses that we are using for communication on a regular basis. So what we have here is we have a foundational scientific situation for communication happening through the electromagnetic field. And the consciousness exists and emits that. Our consciousness has an EMF. So our consciousness exists outside of our physical body. It emits from us our energy, whatever it is, right? Consciousness, the greatest mystery of the world, in my opinion, right? About what exactly it is. So basically, you have the idea that potentially we have a scientific foundation. We have maybe a key to unlock a door that leads to a hallway that leads to 17,000 other doors that have locks that need keys, and inside those doors are rooms with 17 safes, and now you have to figure out how to crack the lock on the safe, and inside that safe is maybe a locked phone, and you need to know the code to get into the phone, and maybe there's someone waiting there, waiting to FaceTime you as soon as that phone activates and says, "This is the secret of the universe, my friend," and you just have to go through all 17,000 of those rooms first. Maybe this is that first key. Hey, you can't. I used to say this: you can't make we never would have had a milkshake if someone didn't invent the fork. You never get to the blender without the fork. Okay, think about all the steps in between the fork and the blender. We had to get there. Maybe we've already got the fork. Maybe now we're trying to figure out, maybe a hand mixer of some kind. Okay, hey, this is just where we're at. So it's exciting to be doing. Let me be careful how I phrase this. It's exciting to be at the forefront of people doing the heavy lifting on these things that we can consume and maybe read about and figure out and find out for ourselves. I'm looking at the Metaphysics by Aristotle, which is on the bookcase right next to me. And I'm compelled to do a book draw and see what Aristotle might happen to say about this. Let's just open this bad boy up. I haven't read or opened this book yet. It looks like we're on page 126. 126. Let's just read the first thing. And a proof of this statement is the following: for in no science is there any attention paid to this, neither in practical nor productive nor speculative science. For neither does one who builds a house make at the same time as many things as are accidental to the house when it is built, but for these are infinite. There is no hindrance, for example, but that the house, when it has been constructed, should prove to some persons agreeable, but to others injurious, and to others serviceable, and, as I may say, different from all entities, of none of which the building art is productive. And in the same manner, neither does the geometrician speculate into things which in this way are accidental to figures, nor whether there is any difference between a wooden triangle and a triangle having angles equal to 2 right angles. And this coincidence takes place rationally, for the accidental subsists, as it were, in name merely. Wherefore, after a certain mode, Plato judiciously arranged non-entity about the art of the sophist, for the arguments of the sophist are implied about the accident, as I may say, most especially for all things. For they ask, for instance, whether a musician and a grammarian are a different person or the same, and whether the musical choriscus and the choriscus are the same, and whether everything which may exist, yet not always, has been generated. Wherefore, whether in a case a man is a musical, he has been made grammatical, and whether in case he is grammatical, he has made musical, and as many arguments, no doubt, as there are of this kind, for accident appears to be something that hovers on the confines of non-entity. Now, this is evident also from such arguments as the foregoing. For of those things that subsist in a different way from accidents, there is generation and corruption. But this is not the case with those things that subsist according to accident. Okay, I'm gonna stop there. Not a bad, dry, cold read, I suppose. Reading a scientific journal article, then going to the Metaphysics by Aristotle, written, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years earlier. So what that tells me is it's, maybe the fork was an accident. Maybe it was someone who's grammatical, or maybe it was someone who's musical, came up with a fork, or maybe it was an accident. And then maybe it continued on to become something else. We don't know. But, the house could be serviceable. It could be injurious. The fork could be It could help to feed you. It could help to wound you if used improperly. It is all about the intention and the way something can be used, as opposed to the thing inherently good or bad or utilitarian or non-serviceable or injurious itself. That is not inherent in the object itself. It is, in fact, how can it be used? Now, one might argue, well, a nuclear bomb probably has zero serviceable in as an object in practical use. And I would say, you know what, you shouldn't have brought that up because I don't have an answer for it. And then I would remind myself that I'm the one who brought it up. And then I would tell myself, why would you bring things up that you don't have a response to when you're talking to yourself in such a way where there is a recording device? And I would say that's also a very good question. And the question itself is not injurious or serviceable, or good or bad, but it is the intention with which that question is used. I need to have a milkshake is basically at the end of this rabbit hole here. So take a deep breath, move on from the fork, move on from Metaphysics, Aristotle, which I haven't read that book yet. I just got it. I'm reading this other book right now, which Lord knows how long it's going to take me. But I'm going to do my darndest to get through it as quickly as possible. I have one book I'm missing. There is a book that I love and I need it right now for reference and I can't find it. I think I gave it to someone, and it's Skinwalkers at the Pentagon by Lacatski and Kelleher and George Knapp. And I don't have that book. I can't find it. I have turned my room inside out 17,000 times and I'm unable to find that book. But I'm just going to have to order a new one, which breaks my heart because I have so many bookmarks in there that are relevant to something specifically that I need to reference, but we're going to be okay. Basically, what we're getting to the bottom of here is through Bernardo Kastrup and the idea of the mind. We're talking about this article that was written, on the National Library of Medicine that they're posting that you can download. Basically, and there's all kinds of references in this thing. And I just read you a few sentences. There's literally 7 sections of this article. Introduction, brain magnetic fields, electromagnetic field detectors in the brain, voltage gated channels, brain subconscious centers, mirror neurons, conclusion. And there are sources abound. We're talking, Nature, the journal Nature, Psychology. Let's see some of these other journals that are referenced. We're talking about cryptochromes. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that gets, where biochemists are being referenced. By a lot of biochemistry action happening in here. Embryonic genesis results in persistent seizure-like behavior and inappropriate neural activity during, Anyway, so there's all kinds of things going on here. It's a very sciencey thing. And there's really cool diagrams if you like looking at drawings of brains with like arrows and waves coming off of them. That's just something if you're into that. You don't have to be into that, but now let me read you quite possibly one of my favorite quotes that has been sent to me from a good friend of mine. Now, I definitely have to bring this up. As you know, one of my best buddies and one of my paranormal compadres, Matthew Jackson, he has sent me this. It's a 2-parter. And I got to tell you, it is bonkers, and it connects exactly into kind of what we're discussing here and what I hope to be able to boil down and elaborate on in a much more concise and legible manner here in the future. This is from, I believe, I think have I ordered this? No, okay. Angels and Archangels by Damien Echols. And if you don't know who Damien Echols is, I implore you to do some research, look him up. You won't be disappointed. He was part of the West Memphis 3. I remember back in the days, we used to do comedy show fundraisers to try to raise money for their defense fund back in the day. The wrongly convicted 3 kids, where they were wrongly convicted of murder in an extremely corrupt system in West Memphis. Thankfully, they found their freedom a handful of years ago. It hasn't been all that long ago. Damien Echols credits his practice and the occult for in magic for getting him through his time, very extremely difficult time in prison. Now, this is just a snippet that he references in this book in regards to the history of magic without hidden motive. When Emperor Constantine gutted the Bible, nearly 50 books were either removed entirely or substantially edited. Much of that material was attributed to Christ himself, most notably instructions given to his students on how to shape reality. For example, we still read, quote, "Ask and it shall be given you," in Matthew 7:7. But what's been removed are the instructions on how to ask. This is exciting already, and I will tell you exactly why when I finish here. The scientist and religious scholar Greg Braden says that the original source reads, quote, "All things you ask straightly and directly from inside my name you shall be given." So far you have not done this. Ask without hidden motive and be surrounded by your answer. Be enveloped by what you desire, that your gladness be full. That's the end of the quote. Furthermore, Braden asserts that, quote, "without hidden motive," end quote, is better translated as without judgment, not labeling things with the egoic labels of good and bad. In other words, when we ask, we should do so from the perspective of the higher self, okay? From the higher self to manifest something within the divine matrix. Therefore, we must use the language of the matrix, which is consciousness translated through the electromagnetic fields generated by our heart and mind. Matthew Jackson's blowing my gourd open when he sends me this, with warning that my gourd will be blown open because his gourd was also shattered. In short, the language of the quantum field is energy itself. Christ taught that one should act as if what has been requested has already been granted. By doing so, the electromagnetic field of the heart sends a signal to the quantum field, which will then manifest the prayer on the physical plane. We do the same thing with our mind by visualizing what we want to manifest. The brain's electromagnetic field then sends that signal to the divine matrix. And can you do it? Can we do it without judgment? Oh, John. I mean, John's just a guy I talk to sometimes. Don't worry about it. He's out there somewhere. But like, holy smokes, right? Now, you see how all this is all kind of webbing together, right? In some kind of way. The further, the more discoveries science makes about the brain and the electromagnetic field and, you know, the communication between animals, between humans and other animals, between humans and humans, using the electromagnetic field that exists through the language of the language of consciousness is energy. I mean, ask and it shall be given you. I told you I'd come back. The scientist and religious scholar Greg Braden says the original source reads, "All things you ask straightly and directly from inside my name you shall be given." Where is it? Yeah, right here. So far you have not. So all things you ask, so far you have not done this, right? You're not asking the right way. Now, there's a couple different directions we could go with this. Asking the right way. What does that mean, right? Without hidden motive seems to be without judgment, right? Not labeling things with the egoic labels of good and bad. Oh, I seem to remember a house being serviceable or injurious. It's not really important, according to Aristotle, one way or the other. If that thing is injurious, servable, or whatever, right? Is the fork good or bad? We don't need to label the fork good or bad, right? Okay, so we're not asking the right way. About 5 years ago, God, I can't believe 2017 was 9 years ago. Let me rephrase my sentence. In 2017, when OSAP was the secret Pentagon UFO and paranormal research program was unveiled to the New York Times or the New York Post or whoever. Lou Elizondo, I believe, was the one who leaked it, even though he was not a direct member of the original group. We just got to remind people of that, even though he's out in front, trying to take all the, getting all the media time for it. Now, what I think here is this. James Lacatski, who was in charge of that program with Kelleher, but James Lacatski, and they have written the 3 books, right? Or they've written 2, and the third one might be out. Skinwalkers at the Pentagon, and the other book, I have it right here, that you can see here. Am I in the camera? I don't have okay, so Inside the U.S. Government Covert UFO Program, Initial Revelations. And you can see the names there, James Lacatski, Kelleher, George Knapp. Lacatski has gone on some programs. He's gone on some podcasts, some things like that, right? Not a ton, maybe. I haven't searched recently, but he won't give you answers where he's not allowed to give you answers, right? And just a reminder, we don't like gatekeepers here. Gatekeepers are the worst. The type of people who say things like, "Oh, people couldn't handle the truth if they know it." Oh, but you can, because you're better than us, or you're more evolved, or you're tougher, or you're greater than us in some kind of way, where you are able to handle the information and have decided that the rest of us are unable to handle that information. You understand the inherent flaw in gatekeeping? And to what end does that serve? Well, it's power over people and keep people in the dark, keep people confused, keep the truth from them, et cetera, build up what their truth should be through other nefarious or just whatever kind of means, right? That's the problem with gatekeeping. We don't like gatekeepers here. Down with all gatekeepers, as far as I'm concerned. That's why no one tells me good secrets. Now, personal secrets between things, or like, I probably have some from people. I just don't. I can't think. My memory. I'm a great person to tell a secret to, because chances are I won't remember it. My guy will tell you that I don't remember anything. So, what was I talking about? Now I don't even remember what I was talking about. Okay. Oh, so James Lacatski, Dr. Lacatski. I think he's a doctor. Yeah. Well, Kelleher is a PhD. Anyway, Lacatski, who is in charge of this program, right, has gone on multiple podcasts, and he's talked, and he won't answer things that he's not cleared to give you the answer to, right? But he will talk around the issues, and he'll say, "I just can't confirm that." And when someone who knows a lot of stuff says they can't confirm nor deny something, when asked a direct question, in my book, you can kind of just assume that's a yes. That's just where I'm coming from. Maybe I'm totally off base on that, but have you seen? So what you're saying is because Lacatski talks about how people have been inside UFOs made off planet, and then they've talked about this, how the United States government has a UFO in possession that they've been in. They figured out how to get inside of it. But then he's cleared to talk about that to a certain degree, but not allowed to give specific answers about that UFO. Now, other than once you got inside, it opened up into a whole nother. Have you read House of Leaves, that book about the house that is? That's what it made me think of immediately. Nonetheless, I'm going to get to the point. I swear to Zeus. What he says here is this in one of these talks, and I'll never forget it. He says, "You're not asking the right questions," and that stuck with me, and it burned with me, because anyone who had been able to interview him or talk to him had been like, "Why are the aliens here? Where are the aliens from? Are the aliens good or bad? Do we have bodies of the aliens? Do we have UFOs? Where'd the UFOs come from? things like that. These are the questions people are asking. And of course they're asking those questions because those are fascinating questions. Imagine being able to get the answers to those. But when he said, no one is asking the right question, and I cannot tell you what question that is that you should be asking me, that seemingly indicates that he would answer it, right? So imagine being able to have the right questions, right? Ask the right way. There's a similarity here that I can't shake, that rattles me a little bit in a good way, right? My initial thought when I heard this was, no one is asking him, when are they from? And that very likely that not the right question to ask either. But hey, give it a shot. It seems nonsensical to ask, when are they from? But I'd love to see Lacatski's face when you ask him, so these aliens, these entities, these non-human intelligences, these NHIs, when are they from? Do we know when they are from? And then just see his initial reaction, because a face can't hide. A face can't hide, right? A face can't hide. So yeah, let's take another break. I'm getting juiced and worked over here about this, remembering all this Lacatski stuff. And I got to finish this book. I also got to finish this initial Revelations book. But I cannot recommend enough to read Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. It's bonkers what they're telling you in there, that people are like, wait, this is real. Yeah, it's, to the best of our knowledge, it's an honest accounting of the experiences of OSAP and their experience having a secret UFO Pentagon, or the Pentagon program of UFOs and things like that, funded by the United States government. And we'll talk more about it when we get back. Patreon.com/Ryan Singer, no commercials.
This episode is brought to you by Focus Features. Would you let AI pilot your plane, raise your child, decide your future? On March 27th, Focus Features presents The AI Doc, or How I Became an Apocalyptimist. Critics and audience at the Sundance and Southwest Film Festivals call it the most urgent movie of our time. The AI Doc, or How I Became an Apocalyptimist, rated PG-13. Only in theaters March 27th.
On December 12th, Disney Plus invites you to go behind the scenes with Taylor Swift in an exclusive 6-episode docuseries.
I wanted to give something to the fans that they didn't expect.
The only thing left is to close the book.
The end of an era. And don't miss Taylor Swift, The Eras Tour, the final show, featuring for the first time the Tortured Poets Department. Streaming December 12th, only on Disney Plus.
So we're back, and I have to tell you, synchronicity, kismet. I just randomly opened up to one of my many bookmarks that I have in this book so far. And what did I find? And does it tie into maybe exactly what we're talking about? Well, wouldn't you know it? One of the luckiest people in the world. I do consider myself to be one of the luckiest people in the world. And there's various reasons for that, but this might be one of them. This is page 15, where they're going through a list of different, let's see here. Let's see what the name of the chapter is here, just so I can give you some clarification. OSAP Management Plan. OSAP is AAWSAP. And this is the BASS Project Management Plan. Was written in November 2008 for early December submission to DIA, Defense Intelligence, something. I can't remember all the government acronyms. BASS is Bigelow Aerospace. That's what that is. That's Robert Bigelow, who's, best friends with George Knapp, and very, very tight-knit group of early on UFO paranormal research happening, Skinwalker Ranch, etc. What a fascinating place, still to this day. Page 15. This is what I opened up to. Thanks for being back, by the way. Project Consciousness. See that? Was the examination of the connection between UAP/UFO and paranormal phenomena and the human mind and body. It was considered imperative to determine what can be learned, analyzed, and evaluated with regard to the putative consciousness connection between UAP and humans. Decades of research have suggested that consciousness, parenthetically it says, including telepathic communication, end of parentheses, may play an integral role in human UAP interactions. Many human eyewitnesses have interacted with alleged non-human intelligence in many different countries, which presents an intriguing commonality. Project Consciousness was proposed to be an umbrella organization that housed multiple programs involving telepathy, remote viewing, psychic functioning, and more. It was thus very high value as an important tool to obtain critical data with regard to the activity and behavior of UAP. The present book will describe the first 9 months of the OSAP effort and will focus on narrating the details of projects physics, engagement, database, Kelleher, Northern Tier, and will introduce the OSAP work on Skinwalker Ranch. Subsequent volumes will cover the remaining months of OSAP, terminating in December 2010. I mean, it's no secret. And Bigelow has a consciousness research institute / foundation. And we actually have had a guest on here who has received funding from said organization, nonprofit organization, research foundation. Exactly what it is, I'm not sure. I think it's the Bigelow Institute for Consciousness Study. How about I look it up real quick while on the fly? Bigelow Consciousness Research. Bigelow Institute for Consciousness Studies .org. If you go to the website here, they've got table of contents. Major announcement. Bigelow Institute for Consciousness Studies is now a wholly owned subsidiary of the R.T. Bigelow Educational Foundation. The R.T. Bigelow Educational Foundation will be a huge source of funding going into the future. Now, what is the R.T. Bigelow Educational Foundation? Here's the mission statement of the Bigelow Institute for Consciousness Study. They do essay contests, okay? The mission of BICS is to communicate, facilitate, educate, and organize scientific research and exploration into the survival of human consciousness. These efforts shall focus particularly on consciousness surviving permanent bodily death. Now, if I was a billionaire like Robert Bigelow, this is what I'm doing with my money, okay? I mean, we can talk about billionaires and whether there should be billionaires. We can talk about that all day. And I'm more than happy to talk about billionaires all day and why they don't pay enough taxes and how many of the world's problems could be solved if you just taxed these billionaire boys out running around, right? But if I had Bigelow money, this is exactly what I'm doing with my money. I am hyper-focused. Now, there's a copyright on this website from 2022 to 2024. I'm guessing that is just a lax in the coding of the website, not changing it to the year 2026. I'm not suggesting anyone go in here and just take a bunch of their stuff. So meet the 7 contest judges. Let's look at their judges here in real time. I'm going to share screen again. Let's lean into that a little more when I'm doing solos. Okay. So bigelowinstitute.org. So between July and December 2020, BICS recruited a panel of judges. Let's go with broad backgrounds and diverse subjects. Diane Archangel, Christopher Green, Leslie Keene, Jeffrey Cripple, Hal Putoff, Jessica Utz, and Brian Weiss, author of Many Lives, Many Masters. Who is Diane Archangel? Let's click. Is a former hospice chaplain, psychiatric hospital therapist, and director of the Elizabeth Kubler-Ross Center of Houston. She served on the board of directors at the Rhine Research Center and the National Institute for Discovery Science, NIDS. Remember NIDS? NIDS is the very earliest iteration of Bigelow's research out at Skinwalker Ranch. She has also conducted survival research with the University of Virginia. I'll tell you what's going on over there in Charlottesville area, right? You got the Monroe Institute, not far from over there. You got, she is the author of Afterlife Encounters and with Raymond Moody, Life After Loss. Diane seems like a pretty great person. Christopher Green, PhD, MD, worked for the U.S. government for 26 years and was awarded the National Intelligence Medal for his work in forensics. He applies his experience of over 40 years in neuroscience with a new clinical focus using MRI to study neurodegenerative disease and the neural aspects of cognition. Now, we're really interested as well in the idea that Diane Archangel did work with the Monroe Institute. As you know, I'm always talking about the Gateway Voyage program, talking about the Monroe Institute. Jeffrey Cripple. This name is extremely familiar to me. Is he Associate Dean of the Faculty and Graduate Programs at the School of Humanities and J. Newton Razor Chair of Philosophy and Religious Thought at Rice University. He is also the Associate Director of the Center for Theory and Research at the Esalen Institute in Big Sur, California. There we go. That's why I know him. Are you not familiar with Esalen Institute in Big Sur, California? I'm telling you what, California's got some great spots. We've got Institute of Noetic Science. We've got IONS, right? We've got the Philosophical Research Society, PRS. We've got Theosophical Society. We've got the Esalen Institute in Big Sur, California. You start going up towards Petaluma, you start going up north, you start getting into some really cool kind of Edgar Mitchell, Dr. Edgar Mitchell, I believe, former astronaut. He's the one who founded IONS, right? I got his book here somewhere. I haven't gotten to that one yet either. God, I wish I'd never had to sleep and I could just read. Okay. So this is interesting. Basically what we're getting to the bottom of here is that the government is extremely interested in the study of consciousness. And why wouldn't they be, right? It's one of the greatest mysteries of the world. It shouldn't surprise me or I suppose anyone else that research into consciousness is at the foundation of moving forward, understanding, studying, and planning for a life with neighbors intergalactically or interdimensionally, which I believe will be the great reveal. Anymore. It seems more and more like it's going to be that. Let's see who the top 3 contest winners are. I think Dr. Jeffrey Mishlove won one of these. Oh, look at that. We got Dr. Jeffrey Mishlove. $500,000 to Dr. Mishlove. You can listen to my interview with Dr. Mishlove on this program. The Survival of Human Consciousness After Permanent Bodily Death Beyond the Brain. Pim von Lommel. That's a nice second prize. The Continuity of Consciousness. Oh, you can download these articles. You bet your sweet tush we can do that. And Leo Rookby, The Ghost in the Time Machine. Now, wow, we got to download these. That's pretty cool that they're making these available for download. The winners were chosen based on the power of the arguments presented and how persuasively the essays made the case for survival of human consciousness beyond a reasonable doubt, as though you were in a courtroom. While the judges were reading and rereading the 204 submitted essays, they were conscious of the great responsibility of choosing the top 3. The judges chose these principal winners with exquisite care. Now, is this still happening? is my question here. Essay contest publishing program. I'd like to know. I still want to know. We got to figure out on the fly. We're gonna find out together. That's when you find out on the fly. We're gonna find out what the RT Foundation thing is right now together, me and you. So let's figure this out, shall we? The Robert Thomas Bigelow Educational Foundation. Based in Las Vegas, Nevada. Oh, there's its total assets, 52,000. Annual giving, 151,000. It's doing grants. Average grant size, 25K. Okay, interesting. So it's giving grants out as an educational foundation. Can't be on consciousness research. Oh, shoot. Okay. It actually lists who they're giving. Oh, okay. Okay. We've got information here. This is interesting. Donna Stoch, Colm Kelleher, ring a bell? Colm Kelleher, who's co-author and also helped run these OSAP. Okay, you kind of see that the world is tiny. You kind of see that it's a small world. Anyway, the Robert Thomas Bigelow Educational Foundation. It's a nonprofit giving out grants. Okay, cool. Well, I don't know what Lombardo is. Las Vegas hotel mogul Robert Bigelow spends nearly $50 million to support Lombardo. Other Republicans. Oh, he's yeah, that all tracks. That tracks. Yeah, billionaire supporting conservatives. Color me surprised, if you will. Not, because I'm not surprised at all that someone like that would be interested in keeping as much of their money as humanly possible and using educational foundations probably as tax write-offs so they don't have to pay any taxes. These are just guesses, but hey, at least it's going to something cool and interesting at the very least. Okay, so we got to the bottom of some of this, but I think this, if nothing else, this illuminates, or I don't think it elucidates, because I think that is a very clear showing of something or an understanding of something. But at the very least, I hope it shines a light on, for myself and for anybody who's interested in this, that consciousness is in fact one of the, if not one of, it's the key component of research moving forward in the paranormal, the esoteric, the UFO, the UAP world, and trying to figure out just, gosh darn it, what's going on around here, right? And I think we're getting to the bottom of it, and we're seeing the interconnectivity here. And when you have Robert Monroe groundbreakingly at the time showing and proving that consciousness exists outside of the body through out-of-body travel and exists beyond, physical form, the after form, physical death, and all the work they're doing at the Monroe Institute and all the government officials that are going out there for meetings and things like that, and the CIA agents being trained in the Gateway Voyage program for years and years and years. Remote viewing is an aspect of that. Using that in a military application is just like, it's just so disappointing to me that instead of mass dispersal of this information, this technology, to awaken the masses to the absolute beauty of the true scope of being alive and the timeline associated with that, which is so much bigger than this simple mortal form that we're occupying in the moment, this specific one, this time. And instead, what are we doing? We're trying to train our spies and our soldiers to remote view so we can see where the other people are holding weapons. Maybe so they don't use them against us. I mean, you could paint the argument one way or the other, and people will be like, oh, you're just too naive about this stuff. And that is what gatekeepers say. Warmongers, people who are part of the system, who have that language, like in Arrival, the movie Arrival, which is probably one of the greatest, if not my favorite of all time, alien space kind of movie. Language shapes our thoughts, shapes our reality. So there you go. This has been a ton of fun. I hope you've enjoyed this. Consciousness is the key to it all, baby. And, you know, if I ever stumble upon a discovery that will further illuminate that, trust me, I will not stop talking about it. Much in the same way I can't stop talking about the Gateway Voyage programs, the meditation program. Get on it. I mean, if you're interested in this stuff, you know, give it a try and see what you think. I can't recommend it highly enough. It's impossible. It's impossible for me to extol the excitement that I have for that. And I'm probably going to do one of those here in a little bit, as soon as we get off here. Okay, we'll talk later, I guess. You know, great guests coming up. Looking forward to all that. And remember, you know, it's more fun to believe. And consciousness is the key, baby. And boy, I'm going to be up late tonight because I've been drinking this juice. I'll be getting juiced up over here. But it's never, don't worry, it's never too late out here on the astral plane.
Now receiving frequency transmission.
How do we know what's real? There's so many things that are unknown in this universe that I'm thankful I don't know the answers to. In many ways, I feel like the unknown is a gift. It allows us to imagine what could be. And sometimes imagining what could be is actually greater than staring right at what is. Our brains try so hard to manufacture certainty, and in our attempts to manufacture certainty, I think we get stuck, and that causes us often to ignore what is real for one person, which may be completely unreal for someone else. So how do we know what's real? We don't. Not knowing what is real allows us to peer more deeply into what could be. And that is a gift in and of itself.
Transmission complete. Stay tuned to Spectrovision Radio. Stay.